Hello children, welcome back to my channel CBSE Geography Made Simple. Today, let's study the 6th chapter of Geography of class 10th of CBSE curriculum, Manufacturing Industries. I have tried to explain the chapter with the help of maps, pictures and examples. Check out the description box below to find the complete notes of the chapter. Also, those of you who are visiting for the first time, please do not forget to check out my previous videos. Also, this is a new channel. If you like my videos, please do support my channel. So let's begin. Children, we will start the chapter Manufacturing Industry with a brief synopsis of the chapter. This chapter we will be studying under following subheads. First, the introduction or the definition and the concept of manufacturing industry, why manufacturing industries are important, and their contribution to the national economy of a country. The factors which determine the location of industrial establishments, classification of various types of industries. We will be studying about some agro-based industries and also some mineral-based industries. Industries definitely contribute towards the economic development of the country, but at the same time, they also cause pollution. So, we will be studying about the factors and how they contribute to the pollution of the environment and what measures can be taken. As a case study, we will be studying about NTPC, which focuses on a proactive approach of industrial development as well as conservation of the environment as well. So, let's begin the chapter now. Now, the definition of manufacturing industry. The processing of raw material, whether agricultural or mineral raw material, to produce finished goods in large quantity for consumption by the consumer is known as manufacturing industry. Manufacturing activity is also known as secondary activity. Raw material like agricultural raw material they support industries like textile, sugar, paper, tea, coffee, etc., food processing, etc. Mineral raw material, they help industries like iron and steel, which is produced from iron ore, bauxite, aluminum industry, automobile industry. These are the industries which are supported by raw material of mineral-based raw material. We will now be doing the importance of manufacturing industries and their contribution to the national economy. Manufacturing industries form the backbone of a country's economy. The development of manufacturing industry is actually the measure of the economic strength of the particular country. They provide alternate career or income opportunity to the people other than agricultural and other primary activities. Besides, setting up of industries at areas which are not so developed in the country also helps in removing the regional disparity and overall balanced development of the country of all other regions of the balanced development of the country. Besides, industries which are very good and robust, they also help in us export of the items or the produced items from the country, resulting in the earning of the foreign exchange. Secondly, agriculture and industry, they are interdependent and they complement each other, because agriculture, they provide raw material to many of the industries, and industries, they provide various infrastructural and agricultural tools to the agricultural sector. So, development in one sector of the economy, agriculture, will automatically result in the development of the industrial sector as well, and vice versa. So, there is an interdependence and interdependence between agricultural and industrial sector in the country, and they also complement each other. Globalization has made it important for industries in the country, not just for self-sufficiency, to strive not for the self-sufficiency, but also in the improvement of the quality and quantities, because they are now exposed to a more intense competition by higher quality product. Now, how do they contribute to the national economy in context of India? In India, 27% of the total GDP is by the manufacturing industry. Out of this, only 17% is by gross manufacturing industry and 10% is by mining, quarry, gas, etc. Whereas this percentage in developed East Asian countries is 25% to 35% against India's 17%. So, there is a huge scope of improvement in India. As regards the growth rate, The industrial sector or manufacturing industry in India has a growth rate of 9% to 10% for last approximately 17 years since 2003, whereas the desired growth rate is 12% per annum. So there is still a gap of 2 to 3% in the growth rate. To attain or to bridge this gap, government has set up a National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council with a special focus or with a special objective to help develop or attain the desired growth rate in the manufacturing industry. In this clip, we will be studying about the deciding factors for the industrial location. Some important factors are availability of raw material, labor, capital, market, transport facility, government policies, etc., which help in industrial locational decision making. In the pre-independence era, the coastal towns such as Kolkata, Mumbai, Visakhapatnam, Chennai, they mostly developed as industrial towns and they were surrounded by agricultural hinterland, and accordingly the entire region around the coastal areas, they got developed. Industrialization and urbanization, they go hand in hand. Once an industry is set up, after that urbanization also follows around that industrial hub to provide services such as school, banking facility, market, etc. Now many industry, they will come together to make use of the advantages offered by the urban centers, and this is known as agglomeration economy, whereas which is the cluster of industries around urban centers, either one or more urban centers. So these areas emerge as a hub of urban center as well as surrounded by various important industries. Children, till now we have done the definition and concept of manufacturing industry, the importance, contribution to the national economy, and the factors which govern the location of the industrial centers. Now, in the subsequent clips, we will be doing about the classification of industries, and we will also study some agro-based and some mineral-based industry. I am teaching you with the help of my notes. The link of the same is provided in the description box below. So now, take up the classification of industries. There are various bases for classification of the industries. One such base is the use of raw material. When agricultural raw material is used, for example, tea or cotton, silk, jute, etc., then agro-based industries, such industries are known as agro-based industry, for example, tea, textile, etc. Mineral-based industries are those industries which use minerals or metals as the raw material, for example, automobile, iron and steel, etc. On the basis of the role the industries play, they are known as the basic or key industries which supply products, their product as raw material to manufacture some other products, for example, aluminium smelting, copper smelting, etc. Consumer industries are those industries which produce goods for direct human consumption, for example, toothpaste, biscuits, car, fans, etc. On the basis of the scale of operation and the capital investment, they are classified as small scale industry, where the maximum investment allowed is rupees 1 crore, and the large scale industries where the investment exceeds 1 crore rupees. On the basis of ownership, the industries are classified as public sector, which are totally government owned, for example, Steel Authority of India Limited. Private sector, totally owned by the private parties, for example, Reliance, Tisco, etc. Then joint sector, where both the public and the private, the government and the private parties, they join hands. For example, LIC, Gas Authority, GAIL, etc. Then there is a cooperative sector, which is owned and managed by the producers and suppliers of raw materials, workers, or both. They contribute towards the resources and also share the profit and losses proportionately. For example, sugar industry in Maharashtra or coir industry in Kerala is an example of industries in the cooperative sector. Then on the basis of the weight of the raw material, industries are heavyweight, for example, iron and steel industry, or lightweight, for example, gems and jewelry, electrical, electronic, etc. We will now be doing the agro-based industry. Under this head, we will be studying about the cotton and jute textile industry and sugar industry. As regards the cotton textile industry, the history of India goes quite far back. In ancient India, hand spinning
and handloom. These techniques were used for cotton textile production. Later on, power loom came into being, which made the production much faster. With more mechanization, mill-made textile made entry. This reduced the total cost of production and the cost of produced item as well, and also the quality used to be much finer compared to the handmade or handloom fabric. Also, in the early times, most of the cotton textile industry was located or clustered around Gujarat, Maharashtra belt, which is the major jute growing area. Because of the proximity of the raw material, also because of the coastal area provided export support also, because of availability of presence of various ports in this area. The climate was also suitable. Since the textile industry clustered in this area, even the various supporting industries like ginning, spinning, weaving, etc. also gained momentum, and this started getting established in this area. Other industries like chemicals, dyes, packaging, materials, tailoring, sewing, engineering work also started developing in this area, and the whole area started developing. Now, the spinning, this was during the early years. Later on, the spinning centers started getting decentralized. However, majorly they are still clustered around this area. Whereas as regards the weaving, this has now become more decentralized to provide scope for incorporating traditional skills and designs of weaving in various fabrics like cotton, silk, zari, etc. This explains the Kanjivaram saris or the Banarsi sari, which are quite localized, or the Tangail saris of West Bengal, which are very localized, and they incorporate the traditional skills of the local area. Now, in spite of the traditional, the textile industry in India is quite robust. In spite of that, there are certain challenges which the industry faces. This is one major challenge is the mismatch in the quality produced by spinning and the quality required by the weavers. Much of the yarn spun is of very high quality, whereas the weaving is done of relatively to suit requirement of the local market, and for this they do not require very high quality yarn. As a result of which, much of the production from the spinning is exported, and whereas weavers have to import a lot of their raw material. Then the power supply gets erratic sometimes, which can impact the industry. Machinery is also sometimes outdated. The labor could be unskilled, and the competition that the industry has to face by various other industries and foreign made and mill made textiles. As regards the export, the countries where the Indian textile is exported are USA, UK, Russia, France, East European countries, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and some African countries. So we see that the cotton textile is exported across various countries in the world.
The jute industry. India is the largest producer of jute goods in the world and occupies the second largest position as an exporter after Bangladesh. Most of the jute mills are located along the Hooghly River in West Bengal, around this area. The reason being that this is the area where jute is produced is grown in abundance. So there is an availability of cheap raw material, labor available in plenty, and that too cheap labor because of the availability of labor from the local market, as well as migrant workers from the nearby states of UP, Bihar, Orissa, Assam, etc. The water transport facility is available, obviously because of the river and the nearby coastal, the Kolkata being a coastal area. Then Kolkata is the nearest urban center which can provide all the infrastructural support of finance, market, export, etc. The jute products from India are exported to USA, Canada, UK, Australia among the first world countries, then to Saudi Arabia and Ghana in Africa. Jute industry itself faces some challenges. These are the most important challenge faced by the jute industry is the competition it has to face from the cheap synthetic substitutes, which are very strong, equally strong in fact. Then also from other exporters like Bangladesh, Egypt, Brazil, etc. So this competition is faced in the international market also. However, there is now an emerging trend of shift or of focus shift towards development or manufacturing of fashion garments also out of jute. Now, the sugar industry. India occupies the second largest, India is the second largest producer of sugar in the world. As regards gur and khansari, which is also a byproduct in the sugar industry, India occupies the first position. The basic nature of sugar industry is that it is seasonal in nature. Why? Because the sugar cane, which is the raw material, is also not produced or is not grown throughout the year in most part of the country. Therefore, and also sugar cane has to be crushed as soon as possible after being harvested. Therefore, proximity to raw material is very important. 60% of mills of sugar industry are in UP and Bihar because of obviously proximity to raw material and other infrastructural facilities which are important for the industry. Other mills are also concentrated in other areas like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Due to these areas also have, because of the good climate, the quality of sugarcane grown in this area is very good. As such, they have a longer crushing season. Also, the cooperative sugar industry of Maharashtra is a very flourishing sector. However, sugar industry itself faces certain challenges. But these are like it is a seasonal industry, therefore it may not be very cost operative. Sometimes the method used for sugar industry in the industry is quite outdated. Transport can be a big challenge sometimes because the raw material has to be transported to the mill as soon as possible after being harvested so that to preserve the sucrose content. But any delay in transport can result in the decrease in the content of the or the quality of the raw material. Then also the bagasse, which is the byproduct after the sugar or the fibrous byproduct after crushing the sugar cane. The use of bagasse is a major challenge because this also should not be totally wasted and can be recycled and used. So the use of bagasse itself is also a challenge for the sugar industry. We will start the mineral-based industry with the most basic industry, which is the iron and steel industry, which forms the backbone of all other industry by providing machinery for other industrial units. That is why it is considered the most basic industry. The development of iron and steel industry is the index of a country's development. This is the reason why China, which is the largest producer and consumer of steel, is one of the most developed countries in the world. The raw materials which are required for iron and steel industry are iron ore, coking coal and limestone in the ratio of 4:2:1. Some manganese is also added in the production of iron and steel for the durability and strength. As regards the location of iron and steel plants, we know that the raw material required are heavy in nature. As such, the proximity of the raw material is a deciding factor. This explains the concentration of iron and steel plant in the Chota Nagpur region, which has many important iron and steel plants such as in Durgapur, Burnpur, Bokaro, Jamshedpur, Rourkela, Bhilai. Then there is an important iron and steel plant in Andhra Pradesh in Visakhapatnam, and in Karnataka, the important plants are Vijayanagar and Bhadravati, Salem in Tamil Nadu. These are the important iron and steel plants. India is quite self-sufficient in the production of iron and steel. In spite of that, there are certain challenges which this industry faces. These are the depletion in the availability of coking coal, and as such, the cost of extraction is getting higher. Productivity of labor could be low. Energy supply could be irregular. Sometimes the infrastructural support which is required could also not be up to the required level. In India, we also import good quality steel from other countries. Liberalization and foreign direct investment have given a boost to the industry, and there is an effort to encourage the private investments and entrepreneurs in this industry also. And there is need to allocate resources for the research and development for strengthening of the iron and steel industry. Aluminium smelting is the second most important industry after iron and steel industry. This has emerged as a substitute to steel, copper, zinc, etc. And aluminium is used for manufacturing of aircraft, utensils, etc. The raw material which is used for aluminium smelting is bauxite. 4 to 6 tons of bauxite gives 1 ton of aluminium.
The main location where aluminum smelting industry are located are Orissa, West Bengal, UP, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The chemical industry includes both the organic and the inorganic chemicals. The organic chemicals are the petrochemicals and they are located near the oil refineries and petrochemical plants for the ease in procuring of the raw material. The organic chemicals or the petrochemicals, they are used for production of fibers, drugs, pharmaceuticals, plastic, rubber, etc. The inorganic chemicals include sulfuric acid, nitric acid, soda ash, caustic soda, etc. And they are used for manufacturing of fertilizers, dye, paints, plastics, etc. Also, chemical industry is its own largest consumer because the basic chemicals which are processed, they are processed to get more chemicals for various other uses for in agriculture or industry or for direct consumption of in other industries. Now the fertilizer industry and the cement industry. The most important fertilizers are the nitrogenous fertilizers or urea, phosphatic fertilizer, ammonium phosphate and the complex fertilizers which are a combination of nitrogen, phosphate and potash. Potash, the country is deficient in potash and therefore the most of potash is imported in the country. The location where the fertilizer industry are located mainly the agricultural belt of India, Punjab, UP, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. These are the areas where most of the fertilizer plants are located. Other states are Delhi, Rajasthan, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra. So these are the other states where the fertilizer plants are located in India. As regards the cement industry, the first cement plant was set up in India in 1904 in Chennai. After that, the industry has been growing. The raw material which is used for the cement industry are silica, limestone and gypsum. They are heavy in nature. Therefore, proximity to raw material center is also an deciding factor for setting up of cement industry. Cement is exported from India to East Asian country, some South Asian country, Middle East, so almost the whole of Asia and then some African countries also. We will now be doing the automobile industry and the IT and electronic industry. The automobile industry provides transport facility for goods, services and passenger transport. They provide or they manufacture trucks, cars, three-wheelers, two-wheelers, multi-utility vehicles, etc. at various locations. The important locations where automobile industry are clustered are the metro towns of Delhi, Gurugram, Mumbai, Pune, Kolkata, Lucknow, Hyderabad, Jamshedpur, where the trucks are manufactured and telco, Bangalore, etc. As regards the IT and electronic industry, which is now a booming industry in India now. There are a wide range of products like transistor, TV, computer, laptop, phone sets, etc. The IT industry is clustered in areas or locations of Bangalore, which has emerged as an electronic capital of the country. The other locations are Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, Coimbatore, Lucknow, etc. Continuing growth in hardware and software has created major employment opportunity for the skilled manpower in India and also has led to the success of the IT industry in India and also is earning a lot of foreign exchange in the country. In the subsequent clips, we will now be doing the industrial pollution and the environmental degradation and the case study of NTPC. Children, we all know that the industries, they are very important for the economic development of a country. However, the other side or the dark side of development of industry is also, if there is no sustained development is not taken care of, then they may also cause a major damage to environment, and environmental degradation may take place by the pollution which is caused by the development of industries. The pollution can impact the air, water, land and soil, and noise. Now quickly look into the various kinds of pollutions which are caused by the irresponsible industrial development. What are the causes of these pollutions and the impact? We'll start with the air pollution. The cause of air pollution is the presence of very high proportion of undesirable and harmful gases like sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, dust, spray, mist, smoke, etc. This smoke is emitted by factories, brick kiln, refineries, burning of the fossil fuels like coal, etc. The impact it has is very adverse impact on overall ecology, human beings, animals, plants, atmosphere in general. The Bhopal gas tragedy was one major gas tragedy which impacted for even the future generations of people living in and around Bhopal. The next comes water pollution. Various organic and inorganic industrial wastes and effluents are discharged into rivers. Industries like refineries, tanneries, chemicals, textiles, etc. also let out their acids, dyes, chemicals, plastics, etc. into the water body. Then fly ash, phosphogypsum, iron and steel slags. These are also major solid wastes which are discharged in the water, causing the water pollution. The impact is definitely it pollutes water, which causes disease to those who are consuming water either directly or indirectly. The aquatic ecosystem is very badly damaged because of this, and destruction of biodiversity is a result. The food chain, entire food chain gets contaminated. Thermal pollution happens because of the release of hot water from factories and thermal plants into the streams and rivers. Obviously, this will adversely impact the aquatic life because the temperature of the water increases and it hampers the aquatic life. Noise pollution, because of the industrial and construction activities, generators, drilling machines, etc. are used, which cause a lot of undesirable and irritating noise. This results in anger, hearing impairment, irritation, increased heart rate, blood pressure, stress, etc. Some other reasons are waste from the nuclear power plants, weapon production units. They cause cancer, birth defects, miscarriages. Also, the soil and water pollution are very closely related. Dumping of industrial effluents, glass, chemical, etc. in the water renders the soil useless. The rainwater percolates to the soil and it carries the pollutants to the ground, and accordingly and therefore even the groundwater gets contaminated. Now, what are the suggestions to reduce industrial pollution or the fresh water? The suggestions are we can reuse and recycle of the water and therefore minimize the wastage. Rainwater harvesting is another important measure that can be taken up to meet the water requirement and optimal utilization of the available resources. Hot water, treatment of hot water and effluents before releasing them in rivers and ponds is also an important measure that can be taken up. The treatment is done generally is done in three stages. The first is the primary treatment by mechanical means. This involves the processing of screening, grinding, sedimentation, flocculation. This process is basically the sedimentation and filtration process. The secondary treatment is the removal of microorganisms. The tertiary treatment is the last stage wherein the harmful chemicals are removed. Harmful chemicals as in the nitrates, etc. are removed from the water, making it suitable for the consumption. Regulation of groundwater usage is to be minimized should be minimized by keeping a control over the overdrawing and the wastage. Smokestacks can also be fitted in factories to reduce the release of particulate matter in the air. Then oil and gas can replace coal in the factories because the burning of fossil fuels causes a lot of smoke. Machineries, etc. should be redesigned so that they become energy efficient and reduce the noise they create. Silencers should also be used in the generators and machinery. Also, various noise absorbing materials should be used. Therefore, the challenge of sustainable development requires integration of economic development with the environmental concern.
Now the case study of NTPC. NTPC is India's largest energy conglomerate with ISO certification 14001, This certification is provided for environment management system. The corporation is committed towards sustainable energy generation by optimizing energy resources and with innovative eco-friendly techniques. This has been possible through the NTPC uses upgraded and latest technology for optimum utilization of equipments. Waste generation is minimized by maximizing ash utilization. They also make sure to provide green belt for nurturing ecological balance wherever the power plants are set up. Environmental pollution is reduced to a great extent through ash pond management, water recycling, liquid waste management, etc. And ecological monitoring and review is also done for all its power stations. Thus, NTPC is contributing towards the economic development of the country along with the upliftment of the society and taking care of the ecological balance also. With this, we conclude the chapter. Hope you enjoyed learning. If you like the video, please do like and subscribe to my channel and also share with your friends. Feel free to share your comments and feedback in the comment section below. And yes, do not forget to access the notes of the chapter from the description box below. I will be back again very soon with the next and the last chapter of class 10th. Thanks for watching. Happy learning.